Good evening, everyone. An alarming rise in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations in this country tonight, rudely reminding us this virus is making its own rules, now having remarkably claimed more than 115,000 lives in this country in under 4 months. A serious spike in cases in more than a dozen states, making for some gut check moments in places straining to further reopen. Some officials pressing forward despite the numbers, while others tonight prepare to hold tight a little longer. Morgan Chesky leads off our coverage.
Rising concerns as a surge of new COVID-19 cases hit multiple states.
No one wants to slow down the opening of the economy if there's any way to avoid it. And we are in the any way to avoid it stage.
In Texas, a month after opening back up, hospital space is available. But at Houston Methodist, patients are up 40%.
I think people have let their guard down.
President Trump himself criticized after photos from last night's Dallas visit showed a packed church with few masks and limited social distancing. When you saw that picture of the president's meeting last night, what was your initial reaction?
I was angry because that's our commander-in-chief. That's the person who's supposed to be leading the effort to keep you alive in the time of COVID.
In South Carolina, the governor lifting restrictions despite seeing the single largest daily increase in cases since the pandemic began. 14 states showing a greater than 25% increase in cases in the last week. Recent spikes now prompting some areas to press pause. Nashville staying in phase 2 as both Utah and Oregon take similar steps.
This is essentially a statewide yellow light. This 1-week pause will give our public health experts time to assess what factors are driving the spread of the virus and determine if we need to adjust our approach to reopening.
If she makes that decision, there's a reason she's making that decision, and I have to trust that.
Nationwide, the virus still hitting familiar hotspots. This California nursing home evacuated early this morning after an outbreak forced nearly every resident to relocate. And in Oklahoma, Whirlpool announcing it's closing its plant in Tulsa, where the virus just hit a new daily peak. The company's saying exposed workers have been quarantined. And with each COVID-19 case in the plant, there is a thorough investigation that includes contact tracing. The rush to reopen now forcing a face-off between local and state leaders. In New Jersey, where cases have stabilized, the governor's suing the city of Asbury Park after local leaders violated his order not to allow indoor dining.
We have one set of rules, and they are based on one principle, and that is ensuring public health.
Back in Texas, it's the mayors pushing for a slowdown. But Governor Greg Abbott's order means full steam ahead towards a full reopening.
The state has preempted local governments from hitting the brakes. What we have is our voice and providing information and monitoring the situation.
one, I wanted to say hi. It's Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates. We completed another successful week with nursing home point prevalence surveys. We began testing nursing home employees this week in the state of Connecticut. We also began working, hi Linda, how are you doing? Began working on outbreaks in nursing homes in New York. Our move into New York and up into Hartford County has been pretty busy, but I was ground to a halt today when I ended up in the emergency department. No, not to see a patient, but to take care of myself in the ER. You know, I told everyone 5,000 international units of vitamin D3 daily, and I told them that you don't want to take a lot of D3 because it can cause kidney stones. Well, I had been taking, because it was hit or miss, I had been taking 10,000 international units of vitamin D3 on and off, you know, every other day, every third day, trying to remember it as best I could with a frenetic schedule. Well, guess what happened? What would Murphy do? I'd go back to 5,000 or maybe even 2,000 international units of vitamin D3 and checking your D3s regularly so they're not too high. Why? Because I got a kidney stone. I got a kidney stone today. I went to the ER. I got a CT scan and they found out I had a kidney stone. That kidney stone is sitting between my ureter, right from the kidney down to the bladder, that little junction there. And it's bouncing up and down and it's causing massive pain. So I'm not going to stay on here long, but I want to let everyone know that they should not take more than 5,000 international units of vitamin D3 daily. I took 10,000 and now I have a kidney stone. Listen, the evidence is all over the place, but what would Murphy do? Murphy would stop the 10,000 if you're taking 10,000 or higher, like the prescriptive 50,000, which we don't give. Why don't we give the 50,000 unit? Because it causes kidney stones. And now I have a kidney stone. So, this is Dr. Murphy of Murphy Medical Associates, strongly advising you not to take more than 5,000 international units of vitamin D3 daily. Also, I'm advising you to get your vitamin D3 tested. One of the labs that we test in our COVID care labs is vitamin D levels. Why? Because low vitamin D levels have a poorer prognosis. In addition, low vitamin D levels need to be supplemented. I will, and I appreciate it. But if your vitamin D levels are high, you probably don't need the vitamin D. So how do you know? The only way you know is you test. Test, treat, isolate, and trace, right? And in this case, we test vitamin D levels. If we can't test, then we can't do the rest. We can't appropriately guide you with the right dose of medicine unless we test. So that is a learning point from Dr. Murphy to you. Please, don't take the high-dose vitamin D. Don't get a kidney stone. All right, this is Dr. Murphy. We've got a lot of planning to do next week. We enter more towns. We move through into Hartford County. We move through the boroughs, right? So we start our move towards the boroughs in New York City as well, right? We are here at Murphy Medical Associates preparing if there is a second wave that will be there for the second wave. It's Murphy Medical Associates and our team at coronatestct.com. That's coronatest. Sorry, I get a little spasm from that. At coronatestct.com. Don't take high-dose vitamin D. You might end up with a kidney stone like me. All right? We're here for you. We love you. You take care. Have a good night and a good weekend. How are you doing? How are you doing? It's Dr. Murphy of Murphy Medical Associates checking in with you guys. I haven't seen you in a while, so I wanted to touch base with you. Today, my A-team is here, okay? We are here at a historic residential complex. The historic residential complex is called Tower 1 and Tower East. Now, Tower 1 and Tower East are pretty amazing in the fact that they revolutionized care for the elderly. You know, one of the big problems going on right now that we need to revitalize and that we need to rethink is how we care for our elderly. They truly also, believe it or not, are an underserved population. Yes, they may go to the doctor a lot, but do they get all their needs met? Do they get the socialization that they need? Do they get the activities that they need? Well, during this pandemic, they don't. they don't get any of that. And so there's often isolation and depression. Well, what the towers, Tower 1 and Tower East, are notable for is the history. Oh, that's cool, Linda. Is the history of this place. The funding that they were able to get through the Jewish community centers to be able to be sponsored as a 501c3. All right, they've done an amazing job in the city of New Haven. Truly an amazing job. Gus and his team there are unbelievable. So today we're going to keep the residents safe and we're going to keep the staff safe. We're going to look at the building. We're going to take care of people. We're going to keep the place COVID free as best we can. And what we're going to do is bring some normalcy back to the residents of Tower 1 and Tower East. Because my goal is to get things open, to get them normalized in a safe way. The key is safety. And the New Haven Department of Public Health is working really hard on this. We've had meetings for 2 weeks trying to get all of this together. So I've been pretty excited about that. So we are here. I'm going to be busy because I've got meetings here. And then I'm going to West Haven. And then I'm going to Bridgeport today. So it's going to be a busy day. But our A-team is here at Tower 1 and Tower East to take care of all of the residents and to take care of the staff, right? Dr. Murphy with Murphy Medical Associates is here, and our team at coronatestct.com is operating our sites today. So we're really proud to take care of everyone. Linda, I'm working on Hartford, I promise. We've got some assisted living facilities up there that we're going to be working with, okay? And we'll see if we get that as the entry point to come and say hi to you in Bloomfield. So this is Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates, and coronatestct.com. That's coronatestct.com. Checking in with you because it's been a little while. We love you guys very much. We'll see you soon. Have a great day.
I want to talk about organizations. You know, and one of the reasons I want to talk about organizations is because organizations have politics in them. And as much as we hate politics, they are reality. It's a reality because we have limited resources. So because we have limited resources and unlimited needs, we have politics to divvy up resources. That's just the way it is. I was frustrated when the World Health Organization came out with their comments the other day. Although 2 days before that, I was really heartened when the World Health Organization stated the following. If you're in a hospital and you're a hospital worker or you're in a healthcare setting, you need proper PPE. And they said the following: medical grade masks, respirators, N95s for people in hospitals. You know, I don't know, I tell the story, maybe I told it a couple times already. This was early March, right? I had a COVID positive patient in the hospital I was caring for. How did I know he was positive? We tested him on a drive-thru. So he was one of our handful of hospitalized patients, right? We've had thousands of COVID positive patients, but only a handful of hospitalized ones because we tested, we treated, and we treated early, right? We looked at oxygen saturations, right? We looked at some laboratory metrics and we treated early to keep people healthy and hospital free. But this was probably maybe March 13th. I went into one of the hospitals where I have privileges at. I won't tell you which one, but it's in Lower Fairfield County, Connecticut. And it's in the same town as one of our offices in Lower Fairfield County, Connecticut. So I went into this hospital wearing my N95. Why? Because the CDC said, if you bump into a patient who's COVID positive and you don't know you're COVID positive and you don't have a mask on, you're quarantining for 14 days. And at that time, we had our offices open. And so I couldn't risk being out of the game for 14 days. So I wore my mask. And I assumed everyone was positive, which not a bad way to go. So I got told by one of the nursing supervisors, Dr. Murphy, you can't wear your mask in the halls. What? No, you can't wear your mask in the halls. Why not? You just can't wear your mask. Why? Well, Dr. Murphy, you're being disruptive. You're being disruptive and you're scaring my nurses. So I can't wear my N95? Is that what you're saying? I can't wear my N95? Yes, you can't wear a mask in the halls. Can you put that in writing for me? Well, I'm gonna call Spike, right? I'm gonna call the chief medical officer. Okay, well, names are right, not his real name. I said, yeah, go ahead, call the chief medical officer and have them put this in writing for me. Until then, I'm gonna wear my mask. Well, guess what? Those nursing supervisors got direct orders from somewhere, and it's a big health system. So I wonder where they got those orders from. But I think as that shakes out, we're going to find that that was due to politics, right? Politics affects resources. We have a limited amount of resources, limited amount of N95s. How do we distribute them? Well, maybe we play a political game and say it's not important to wear N95s around in an infected hospital. Well, the World Health Organization said, whether you're a janitor, whether you are a charge nurse, whether you are a registrar, whether you are a doctor or a respiratory therapist, you should be wearing a respirator in those hospitals. If you're not wearing a respirator, it's got to at least be medical grade masks. You can't wear cloth masks in the hospital. What are you doing? You can't wear cloth masks in the hospital. We've got to have a medical grade respirator. In addition, the World Health Organization also said single-ply masks, worthless. Single-ply masks, worthless. If you want any sort of protection, it has to at least be 3-ply. So all of you who have stitched masks, you need to review how to make 3-ply masks. 3-ply masks, that's all, right? So I was happy when the World Health Organization said that. I was not happy when the World Health Organization said asymptomatic people rarely spread the virus. Well, it's just not true. That's not true. The data that they used is such poor data for that. So it's almost like there is confirmation bias with me, right? You gotta listen. You have to pay attention to these things, right? Our minds are weak. And to make them stronger, we have to recognize the limitations of our mind. One of those limitations is something called confirmation bias, where we have a paradigm in our mind of how the world should work, and we only find things that reinforce our confirmations, right? Our bias, right? This confirmation bias. We pay attention to those things that fit our paradigm, and we tend to ignore things that don't. So we have to fix that, right? So part of my paradigm is that politics tends to mar healthcare, and health systems tend to be inherently political. So that means that health systems mar healthcare. That's kind of how I operate. But is it true? Maybe there's some really great things that have happened with health systems, and I'm here to listen to them, right? Have they lowered the cost of medicine? No. Have they improved the cost of healthcare? No. Have they improved satisfaction of patients? No. Actually, healthcare systems have been found when you merge into a hospital system, the patient satisfaction goes down. So, what have healthcare systems brought us? Higher costs, lower patient satisfaction, but increased access to resources. So, do we get more ECMO machines because you have a health system? I don't think so, right? I'd like to see the studies on that. And I'd like to see the studies on community-based mortality as a health system takes over a hospital. I'd like to see how mortality data shakes out. I think that'd be very useful data to find out. That'd be a good goal to have, one of our goals. So our goals at Murphy Medical Associates are to test, treat, isolate, and trace. We now have a strategic relationship with the city of Bridgeport, where we're going to be doing in Bridgeport what we're doing in New Haven, which is, and I want to thank Mayor Elliker and Director Bond for this, we're doing pop-up sites in hot zones in New Haven. We're testing municipal workers in New Haven. We're also doing walk-up sites in New Haven, and we're testing for antibodies in New Haven. In addition to that, in about a couple of weeks, we'll debut our office in New Haven, right? So we're doing all of those things. And so I think we're going to do something in Bridgeport where we're testing municipal workers. We're creating pop-up sites, and we're working with the Department of Health and Director Lisa Morrissey and Mayor Joe Ganim to set up a dual-function, dual-barrel drive-through walk-up site at Central High School in Bridgeport, off of Lincoln there. So that's what we're doing. And those are some of our goals, is to help the cities and help the people who need the help the most. So we've been very good at that. We also today were from 8 in the morning until 6:30 at night at Tower 1 and Tower East. Again, second day in a row for this really unique residential community, testing their employees to keep the residents safe. Right? And so we're running those tests in our lab right now tonight. I know Matthew is working hard over there. He'll be there pretty late tonight. And then the early morning shift will get in, and they'll run more of the morning shift. And then hopefully by the end of the day, we'll have the results on all of their employees. And so we're excited about our laboratory. We're excited about our drive-thrus, and we're excited about creating safe offices, right? We recognize that if you want to run a safe office, people are going to wait in their cars. They're not going to wait in the waiting room. People are going to wait in their cars. They're going to get called up one at a time. They're going to be in a room. They're going to be in that room and evaluated. And we remember there's asymptomatics, and despite what the World Health Organization said, and I think they're going to walk back their statement, asymptomatic patients can spread disease. And so we'll have to treat every room as it could be a COVID room. And so we'll have to have ventilation and these sorts of things. And we'll have to have hot zones and clean zones. So we're only going to have offices where we can have a hot zone and a clean zone. If we can't have hot zones and clean zones, we shouldn't be having an office. I'm sorry, doctors, but if you can't have a hot zone and a clean zone, you shouldn't have an office. You should try and find a new office space. Pull together with a bunch of other doctors to keep your costs down for rent, and find offices that have hot zones or clean zones. Find offices that have negative pressure rooms like ERs, right? Or try and figure those out. So that's my advice for that. That's what would Murphy do. Also, what would Murphy do? Murphy got a kidney stone from vitamin D. So I'm cutting my vitamin D dose down. I'm still taking 2,000 international units daily. Way down from 10,000. But I'm still going to take it. I'm going to hydrate appropriately. And drink less coffee. So, back to the politics, right? I'm going to tell you a little politics going on, right? I told you that Yale New Haven Health System, what I like to call Grace New Haven Health System, sent an attorney to my landlord in Stratford and threatened to sue because of my drive-thru, because it would affect their business. Well, we probably saved you because we kept the sick people out of the building. And should you have converted to telemedicine? Absolutely. We keep your people safe. And that's part of the problem with one of my good friends who is resigning from his employed position at. He is getting railroaded out of a job because of politics, right? He wouldn't take the blame for the nurse managers who said, you can't wear a mask. You can't wear a mask. You're going to scare the nurses, right? So these health system decisions are based on politics. And so that's my controversial view today. We need to break up systems that don't focus on putting clinicians at the top level making decisions for the healthcare systems. That's all, right? That's all we'd ask for. A majority should be clinicians. Put Chris Kahas on the board. Phlebotomist, day to day. He's working, he's drawing blood, he's hustling, he's working hard, he sees the patients, he understands the needs. Put him on the board. He's going to contribute valuable information that'll make sure that the resources get distributed appropriately, not based on your bonus, not based on your matching, based on the amount of money you saved for the institution, right? Especially the 501c3s, because they are called not-for-profit. They make profit. It's called margin, right? It's called margin, but they can't call it profit because it's ugly, right? And they can't get to wield the weapon of these guys are in it for profit. What was your margin? How many millions? How many hundreds of millions of dollars of margin profit, that's what I'll call it, margin profit, did you guys make? Oh, well, we have to save it for the underinsured. Okay, I get it. Oh, we have to save it for the undocumented and undomiciled. Okay, I get it. Well, guess what? Governor Lamont just made them all eligible for Medicaid. So they're insured. Done. Contribute back to the system. We can't. Why? Politics. So, Chris and Linda and all my friends on here, Dr. Murphy, flat organizations, right? Chris will tell you we do not like hierarchical organizations. We like our teams to operate like the Delta Force, where everyone can interoperate with each other, right? There is an order structure command, but we won't get into politics that way. We all work together like a family. If you do that, that's the way things work. That's it. I've done my riff tonight. Tomorrow, we test in Bridgeport. Tomorrow, we test in New Haven. Okay, this is our Wednesdays. We've closed our Stanford site because of lack of demand. When it ticks up, we'll be there, right? When it ticks up, we'll be there. We also do swabbing, car swabbing at 30 Buxton Farms Road. We also do in-site swabbing in Greenwich, at our Greenwich office that also does all of our phlebotomy and COVID care. We also are in our Stratford location, right, doing COVID care, COVID ultrasounds, and swabs and blood work. So we're doing a lot. We're in a lot of different locations, and so our goal is to help everyone out as best we can. And we will not be at the towers. Instead, we will be at Lincoln Bassett in the morning, and Day and Chapel in the afternoon. And I'm going to get an office just a couple of blocks away from Day and Chapel because I really like that area. And I want to make sure that we take care of the people in that community and be a part of that community forever. Why? I was born in New Haven, so I'd like to stay there. It's Dr. Murphy Medical Associates telling all of you to get your sleep, get some sun and exercise, and stay hydrated, okay? I love you guys. Have a great night. We'll talk to you later. It's Dr. Murphy Medical Associates and our team at coronatestct.com. That's coronatestct.com. Have a great night.
Good morning, everyone. I want to talk today a little bit, see how I pulled down, right, about masks. You know, a huge German study, not huge, but a pretty decent sized German study came out that said that the number one way to prevent novel coronavirus spread in this pandemic is to wear masks. Now, this is something that is, sorry, I'm going to grab my coffee, right? I'm going to grab my coffee. This is something very important. I see my coffee cup. It's Le Cellier at Disney, right? That's Disney. Want to talk about a place where you could spread coronavirus? Try waiting for flights of passage for 3 hours in a hallway with the same strangers without masks on. Ta-da! There you go. Okay, everyone's talking, it's loud, it's boisterous, kids are screaming, you're waiting in line for 3 hours to get on a ride. No good. That's the ripest conditions to spread coronavirus. I mean, aside from a church choir where one person gave it to dozens of other people from singing without a mask on. We have always said mask up, right? Wear your mask, be safe. In New Haven, I think that's a hashtag that the Department of Public Health and Mayor Elliker have had, right? Mask up. If you were out and about on Memorial Day, we're now seeing a spike. One of the things that's going on in Arizona is a massive Memorial Day spike. Count out the days from Memorial Day till now. You'll go, that's like 2 weeks. Phone calls, you know, morning podcasts, morning Periscopes are the worst because I get phone calls. I get all morning long. Phone calls and texts. So we were talking about masks, right? This is what we call an N95 respirator. It's an N95 respirator. Now, the World Health Organization came out with some data saying the single most effective thing we can do to prevent the spread of novel coronavirus is not shelter in place. It is wear a mask. Now, the World Health Organization came out with some guidelines that said the following. 3-ply masks are the minimum type of mask that people should be wearing in public, that the single-layer cloth masks don't work at all. Single-layer cloth masks don't work at all. They're not effective at reducing spread. So let me be fancy with your Louis Vuitton or your Gucci, but it's got to be 3-ply. It's got to be 3-ply. It cannot be single-ply. Number 2, if you're in a healthcare facility, nursing homes, assisted living, hospitals, with direct exposure to patients who are COVID positive in the facility, meaning whether you're a registrar or whether you're a nurse or a doctor or a respiratory therapist, you should be in medical grade masks. Medical grade masks. So medical grade. They also recommend respirators. What's a respirator? That's what I just showed you. It's an N95. It's an N95 mask. There was a massive shortage of those, so we used KN95s from China. But the N95 tends to be a better mask. They also recommend PAPRs. Hey, Linda, how are you doing? So they also recommend PAPRs, right? These are respirators that use recirculated air. That is what they use for airborne transmission of things like Ebola, which is highly, highly, highly contagious. Okay? This virus is highly contagious too. Social distancing by itself without masks leads to family spread. And right now in New Haven County, we're seeing family spread. In Fairfield County, that was hit the hardest up first, we're seeing less incidents. Well, also part of that is less of a desire to test. Less of a desire to test. I want to thank First Selectman Stevenson for keeping us through the month of June. But I think, like Stamford, the political will to hold sites like drive-thrus like this comes with a lot of resistance from a lot of fear in the community. And so we wind down sites. So I wouldn't be surprised if our Darien site is going away soon. That's okay. We're looking for private sites for Stamford. So we'll be ready for this next wave. Currently, we're doing what's called a park hop, where you come over to our office and you park in your car and we screen you and swab you. Way less efficient. But guess what? The property manager and the people in the building can't handle COVID. So they're going to have to wait to be locked down again, I guess. In fact, a lot of the people in this property here aren't even wearing masks, which again, I will reiterate, is the single most important thing we can do as a society to reduce the spread of novel coronavirus. And now studies prove it. And the World Health Organization advises it. And our CDC is wrapping their brains around it, and they're going to advise it too. Mask up, people. End of story. 3-ply mask minimum. 3-ply mask minimum. 3 layers versus the blown plasticky cotton candy N95 masks. But we'd also prefer that you get fit tested by one of these N95 mask companies if you're going to have long-term prolonged exposure. Hi, I know I'm a medium mask, right? When I was a little bit younger, I was a smaller mask, but now I know my fit's normal fit. The way we do this is we put a little container over our head and we pump an aroma in, and we pump it for a parts per million to see if we can smell it or not. If we can't smell it, the mask fit is correct. If we can smell it, mask fit not correct. Okay? And so a lot of places need to fit their masks
for their healthcare workers. A lot of these nursing homes actually were fined. Some of the ones we were doing point prevalence surveys in were fined because they didn't have access to fit testing. Well, no crap. Do you know how hard it is to get fit tested? And now that it's in massive demand, they need online training for fit testing, and they need to speed kits out there for fit testing. Right? That's the first thing they should do. If they issue the fine, I would say only in the instance where you could demonstrably prove that you could have gotten fit tested but selected not to. Should that be a fine? Right? I'm here for the nursing homes. I'm here for the state. We're here for New York State's nursing homes and the state as well. So we're working really hard, both states. Today we're up in Brewster, which is in the county, in Putnam County, the county above Westchester County. So we're getting into a bunch of counties in New York. We're in New Haven County. We're in Fairfield County. And now we're also, Linda, we're working on Hartford County and a couple of assisted living facilities and independent living facilities up there. Slow and steady moves the race. We doubled our payroll a little while ago. We're probably going to do it again soon, maybe by mid-July. This is Dr. Murphy, like my scrubs, right? I got new scrubs from a company called TI Scrubs. It's a great company, TI Scrubs. They look a little shiny, right? They kind of look like maybe a kimono or silk PJs. They're a little silky, right? They're a little silky. But the embroidery work they did was amazing. So I want to thank TI Scrubs. I want to thank everyone that listened. I love you guys. I want you safe. So we're going to wear masks. Mask up. All right? This is Dr. Murphy with Murphy Medical Associates saying mask up. 3-ply mask minimum in public. 3-ply mask minimum in public. All right? If you're going to get your hair done, do it outside. Do it outside. You got it, Jake the Boss. Up it is. All right, brother. Listen, guys. Be safe. Stay strong. I love you. This is Dr. Murphy with Murphy Medical Associates and our team at coronatestct.com. That's coronatestct.com. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Mask up. Good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? I'm not in the animal kingdom in Disney. I am in the backyard. How's it going? It's Dr. Murphy with Murphy Medical Associates and coronatestct.com. Giving you guys an update, an operational update, more importantly on some of the most pressing news, some of the new studies that have come out, some research on the data that we have seen. 1, masks are our most potent weapon against respiratory viruses. We're seeing more and more evidence that this little guy, this novel coronavirus, is airborne, aerosolized out as droplets and also maybe even as microparticles. The number one protection is a fitted N95 for healthcare workers. And the World Health Organization said anyone in a healthcare setting, nursing home, hospital, etc., should be wearing a medical grade mask. A medical grade mask, including a respirator, which is an N95. We also have gained some new insight with a couple of Japanese studies, which have shown the following. The youngsters, right? Not the kids, the youngsters, 20-year-olds are spreading the virus in a pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic fashion. In Japan, those were the big spreaders. Who? The people that went to the bars and the gyms looking for a mate, right? Looking for a mate. Let's remember what's going on with the youngsters, and they're 20 years old. They're looking for a mate. So they're going to the bars, they're going to the gyms, and they're giving other people COVID, right? At least that's what we saw in the Japanese data. So in the German data, we found that they were able to flatten the curve with masks
and adherence to masks. In the Japanese data, we were able to find that your 20 to 40-year-olds were the people doing asymptomatic spread. Right? They're doing asymptomatic spread. But I want to talk a little bit more about how we can safely open up while protecting those most vulnerable. We can do that through wearing masks. It's not a restriction of your free rights, right? We're here on Flag Day, right? We're here on Flag Day celebrating the country, the adoption of our flag. But what we need to remember is we don't have a country if everyone is sick, right? It's not going to be a good place to be. We've experienced a lot of economic turmoil. But at the same time, our citizens, our public, they're not so confident being out in public. Wouldn't it be nice to know that you can go out, hi Linda, wouldn't it be nice to know that you can go out in public and know that the people in the buildings with you are going to be in masks to reduce transmission? Masks win, right? I was on the phone yesterday with the city of Stamford's governance, talking with them and actually giving them giving them props, right? I'm giving them props, telling them how fantastic a job they were doing with handing out free masks, right? Giving away masks, especially medical grade masks, 3-ply masks, more so than cloth masks, is one of the best ways to stem the tide. We've been testing in Stamford since the beginning. The numbers are down in Stamford. I think we're going to see a pop. That may be a reporting error in the city of Stamford. I think there might be a reporting error in the city of Stamford. We'll look at our data in Stamford and we'll make sure that it wasn't us, right? I can tell you I get almost all the positives come through me. Thousands come through me. I review all of them in our case protocols for them. We haven't seen a lot of positives in Stamford. So I'd be surprised if this case pop that has been reported to the state is accurate. If it is, perhaps it's point prevalence surveys in the nursing homes, but we've done those too. We know Dr. DiTeodoro and Dr. Fusco and Dr. Falkoff, all of these other doctors who are medical directors of nursing homes have not reported the big pops. So I think this may be a reporting error in Stamford. Generally, we're seeing, great question. When would it be safe for parents to come back from Florida, right? Exactly. The snowbirds, right? I got it. My folks are down in Florida too. I totally get it. Florida is a little bit of a hot spot right now. I don't think I would have my parents getting on a plane coming from Florida just yet. I just wouldn't do it. And I told my folks, shelter in place. Do I want them to go to a hospital that has COVID? No, but we know a lot more about it now. And, you know, I sent my parents N95 so that they've got masks. But if your folks don't, I think shelter in place is probably the safest thing to do in Florida right now. Right? I think it's the safest thing to do. I'm a big Disney nut, and a lot of people know that. But would I go to Disney World right now? What would Murph do? What would the Murph do? I wouldn't go to Disney World. I'm sorry, Disney. I would not go to Disney World right now. Monorails, buses, transportation systems. I mean, maybe Disney can DM me and tell me what they're doing occupationally, health-wise, to sanitize and make that place safe. But with Florida's numbers climbing, Florida is not where I would go right now. And if I was in Florida, I would hunker down. I would hunker down and wait for this to pass. I wouldn't start escaping and getting in public places like airports where, you know, Orlando Airport right now, MCO is not where I would go. PBI, no way. You couldn't catch me there either. I would not be flying out of a Florida airport right now. I'd not be doing public transportation in Florida right now. The numbers are climbing. I would stay home and stay safe. I would stay home and stay safe. So hopefully that answers your question, Linda. I hope it does. Right? We all have to be brave, but not stupid. Right? I think I would have them hunker down in Florida. That's what I would do for now. going to get hotter. Hopefully the numbers go down. But like I said, with the data, the youngsters, the 20-year-olds are spreading the virus. They're spreading the virus. You know, just in New York, there were over 25,000 reported violations at bars for mask enforcement, right? And whatever you think of Governor Cuomo, they've managed to aggressively curb the numbers. They learned a lot of lessons. They made a lot of mistakes. They fixed those mistakes. They're moving in the right direction, right? So imagine in a state where you have a higher incidence of the virus and a higher prevalence of the virus, going maskless and not adhering to the standards that we know help reduce transmission. So no, shelter in place. That's what I would tell you folks to do. We approach a big week next week. We test all of the municipal workers in the city of New Haven, the fire department, the police department, the EMS workers. I'm in CT. You mean Hartford, right? We're already getting assisted living facilities, point prevalence survey. Well, they're not even point prevalence surveys because the assisted living facilities are not like the SNFs, right? Bloomfield. I know. One of the keys, Linda, is getting volunteers to help us at our sites. If we don't have volunteers, we can't run the sites. It's just that simple. We need volunteers. And so to expand into Hartford, while we're already working in other places in New Haven County, requires volunteers from the Medical Reserve Corps. As we open up, a lot of those volunteers are going back to work. So what are we doing? We're hiring the ones that work the hardest. We're hiring the ones that fit our motto. So you guys know, right? There's the crest, right? See this? Right? This is the Murphy crest with our bear and our eagle and our motto. All right? With our bear and our eagle and our motto. Our family, right, at Murphy Medical Associates works hard. They're brave. They're smart. And they take care of each other. So the volunteers that have demonstrated that ethic, we're hiring. We're hiring volunteers. We're hiring people left and right because we know that the public needs us. We know that there are underserved areas that need us. We know there are overserved areas that need us, right? Not just for our COVID expertise, but before I was doing this, we were doing preventative medicine. We were doing genomic medicine. We were looking at family history risk for heart disease or strokes, and we were getting ahead of it. We have a whole vascular laboratory in all of our offices, doing echocardiograms, doing ultrasounds of the neck to look for cholesterol plaques, looking at your kidney function, because kidney disease is often under-recognized until it's too late. We were catching it ahead of time. Our laboratories, ahead of time. That's our lighthouse here, right? You see our lighthouse right there? That's the early warning sign. We detect stuff before anyone else does. And that's how we were able to get ahead with this coronavirus outbreak too. We were detecting things before they got bad, right? Detecting things before they got bad and acting early. That's what we do. We're the early warning sign at Murphy Medical Associates. All right, I'll let you know when we get to Hartford. I promise. I'll let you know ahead of time. Usually these things take 7 to 10 days, sometimes 14 days to manifest. You know, we've been working with some people in Hartford County for about 3 weeks now before things come to fruition. In New Haven, it was about 4 weeks before we could pin everything together. The same is true in Brooklyn and the boroughs, where we're also actively working. It takes time, but we also have to have Medical Reserve Corps. That's essential. That is essential, right? And if the Medical Reserve Corps works really hard and they fit with who we are, then we'll bring them into our family. Just like we bring the patients in, we bring them into our family. So we're working on that. Let's see. The mask thing, super important. The youngsters spreading the virus, super important. All I beg of the youngsters, right? The young ones, right? Like my oldest is a teenager, so she's not quite into where this group is. These are 20 to 40 year olds. 20 to 40 year olds. Put a mask on. Right? I just missed your group, I guess, because I'm 43. I wear a mask. If I'm out in public, I wear a mask. If I'm in a building, I wear a mask. I don't take elevators, I take stairs. But if I were to take an elevator, I'd be in a mask. Not just as protection for me, but protection for you. It's just being kind. It's just being kind to each other. I'm not trying to restrict or deprive your rights. And if you want to talk to me about the recirculation of carbon dioxide, you can talk to all of the brilliant surgeons out there wearing surgical masks for hours at a time. For hours at a time. Right? If you don't trust that they can't do the job in a mask, I mean, we've got issues, right? We've got issues. They did a big study of nurses wearing masks. They didn't find any abnormalities in their blood work. They did not find carbon dioxide retention. Hypercarbia, we call it. They didn't find it. It's all hypothetical. And it's simply because you believe in liberty. I do too. I believe in liberty, right? But I'm not walking around naked. Right? I have the right to, I have the liberty to, and I guess in my own home, right? In my backyard, but not in public, right? Not in public. There are some places where you can be nude in public, and, you know, people going into that situation, no, that's a nude beach, right? They can avoid it. But in certain public places, you just can't avoid it. You can't avoid elevators or grocery stores. It's very tough to avoid these things. Buses for some people. So I'm here to ask all of you. Masks cut transmission. Please wear a mask. On this Flag Day, maybe you get a mask and an American flag mask, right? You paint it on there. Take care of each other. Be good to each other. That's one of the most important things at Murphy Medical Associates, right? We take care of each other. Whether you're a patient or an employee or a partner or a collaborator, like the public-private relationships with the cities and towns that we have. We take care of each other. That's the key, because it's a very stressful time. You know, this young doctor entering his intern year asked and said, I heard intern year is the hardest, and then life gets better. Intern year for me was hard, right? I was at Mount Sinai. And I learned a lot of lessons. And I actually lost a newborn baby that really changed me, right? So intern year shapes you and changes you. But I told this young doctor the following. The last 3 months of medical practice was far harder than my entire intern year. Far harder than my entire intern year. We got little chipmunks running around here. I told that doctor I wouldn't change the last 3 months for the world. You couldn't get me to change it. It's been the hardest 3 months of my entire career, but I wouldn't change it for the world. We've learned so much. We've been able to help so many people. We're able to stick to our mission to apply our healing hands and care for citizens in the states of New York and Connecticut. And even remotely with telemedicine with people who don't have access to doctors who have experience with novel coronavirus. So we've been lots of places. We've learned a lot. We need to understand that in the challenging times is when we grow the most. We have to be dedicated to taking care of each other, to taking care of ourselves, and to try and get better every day. Read something new. Get out in the sun. Get some sunlight, get some exercise, get some fresh air. All right? And be good to each other. This is Dr. Murphy, getting ready to sign off as we get ready for another week at coronatestct.com. It's coronatestct.com. We're testing in nursing homes. We're testing municipal workers. We're testing those who are underserved, who need the care that they most certainly need. We're giving them telemedicine visits, right? We're testing corporations. We're making sure that your grocery stores are safe. We're getting ready to make sure that schools are safe as we work with a bunch of different private schools to shape their metrics. And we're here for the public schools too. We're in a public-private collaboration with a bunch of cities and towns. And we're here to help. I'm here to help. All of our team is here for you. This is Dr. Murphy with Murphy Medical Associates, signing off. Have a good Sunday. This is Dr. Murphy saying be good to each other, right? Get some sun, drink some water, hydrate, take care of each other. All right. Love you guys. We'll see you at coronatestct.com. It's coronatestct.com. Have a great week.
What's happening in Florida right now? We have a graph of the cases and how they have developed over the past months. So you can see a big spike in cases in the past week. So there are some scientists and modelers have suggested that Florida is the new epicenter of coronavirus. What do you think?
Yeah, I think what we're starting to see, the big concern always has been when you start to reopen, you knew there was going to be an increase in the number of people infected. So it was a question, is the line going to go from here to here, like that, and then sort of stay at that higher level of plateau? I think the concern has always been, does that then turn into exponential growth? Think of it like a big steamship, right? The big steamship is sort of plodding along slowly, but now it's gaining speed. And if it gains significant speed, it becomes really hard to slow down. It becomes sort of a runaway ship. So, that is the concern, I think, in Florida, amplified by this idea that we have identified who the vulnerable populations are to this disease. A lot of people are going to get the infection and have very minimal symptoms. They may not even know they had it. They say some 80% of people will be like that. The problem